Hi, welcome back. I'm Mike Vincent, and now I'm joined by Sherman Barnes, the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Trio Logistics. Good morning, Sherman. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Morning. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. You're my first interview on this new show, man, and I appreciate my good friend Sherman being on here. Can you give people a quick intro about yourself and Trio Logistics?
Sure. So Trio Logistics, we're actually a full truckload and intermodal transportation provider. We've been in business for about 40 years. We are minority owned, forecast integrated, Safeway carrier. So what we do is provide, integrated solutions for shippers' needs, whatever they may be.
Yeah, no, Sherman, I love your posts and stuff like that when we're talking about selling and you got some old school tactics like I do, sneaking on the back dock, that type of stuff. Can you talk about some of the newer things that you bring into the game? I mean, it's not so new for some people, but it is for others. The social selling game. Can you explain that and kind of talk to how that really helps out in your business?
Sure. So I live and die by LinkedIn quite a bit, but not just the tool itself. It's also how you utilize it. So one of the things that I do is I try to connect with specific people within the industry or specific customers that I want to get to know. Um, so I do that. I also am constantly making sure that I'm putting out content on that platform. Once I connect with an individual, I try to make sure to like and or comment on that individual's content. I may send videos as well. So I don't know if everyone knows, perhaps they do, but on LinkedIn, you can actually send a video to the person as a private message. So I've utilized that. There are also tools, marketing tools that you can use to send video emails to people via email to their direct email address. Um, I also, again, sometimes there's some text marketing. I'm not quite sure about that. I think it feels a little bit intrusive, but I do
Yeah.
email marketing, LinkedIn marketing. I've experimented with text, but the judge is still out on whether or not, people feel whether or not that's intrusive or not from a
Yeah,
marketing perspective.
yeah, I agree with you. Text myself, I use a lot of text to communicate with customers and business associates, et cetera. It's very, very quick and easy once you get to know the person to go there. But initial call out, that type of stuff, and text marketing is very, very difficult. I think it's a little intrusive. I like the social media, especially LinkedIn. It's a little bit longer of a sell type of thing, but
Yep.
it establishes a stronger relationship for when those times go south and you need those relationships to keep trucks moving, et cetera. And speaking of trucks moving, what do you guys see in there in the current freight market?
Um, the truck market for us, I mean, it's outstanding. I mean, we're having, as similar numbers I'm sure you're seeing from the earnings calls from other transportation providers.
Hmm.
We're not publicly traded, we're private. However, what you're seeing from a volume perspective, from a price perspective, we're doing really, really well right now. The market is constrained from a driver, shortage perspective. I think there's also more of a driver retention issue. Um, you know, I think that's something that we're going to have to solve as an industry. I'm just so surprised that with the average salary being 53,000, that there's still projected to be a shortage of 160,000, drivers going to 2028. So I think that I feel I'm of the school of thought that we should go lower the age from 21 to perhaps 20 or 19 to bring in an influx of young. I have nephews and whatnot that are 18, 19, some going to the military, so I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do. And I think it'd be good to try to get that talent into the trucking industry at a young age. I think it'll bode well for us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think if you do a good job of training and ensuring that the safety training, the safety aspect is there, Sherman. I think that's a wise move is to try and capture that workforce earlier in their decision making process, right? Grab them before they go into the military, et cetera. Although when they come out of the military, they're obviously very, very well trained, right?
Right, exactly. So I think that's something that's going to have to happen. And again, just from a market perspective, it's a great market. It's a challenging market. Our biggest problem is not finding customers or finding freight. It's figuring out how to move that freight from our brokerage side of it and from an asset-based side of it. I mean, we have our customers that we brought on before this all happened, and so they're getting access to the boxes. But for new customers to come on board, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging in this environment.
Yeah, let's talk about that challenge a little bit, Sherman, if you don't mind. You know, you're obviously, you know your title, Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing, right? And so you're trying to balance that operational and sales thing, making sure you're making a contribution to bottom line and taking care of your customers at the same time. At a company like Trio, where you have both asset and non-asset, do they bleed over, and how do you keep one from upsetting the other, so to speak?
Yeah, so good question. So we're a bit smaller than some of the larger companies that I've worked at. So it's a little bit easier because I can literally, reach out and touch the people involved and make a decision. So what we do is, we lead with asset. That's what everybody wants. But we also, once we've established credibility with that customer, um, we then try to sell them on, well, hey, we have partner carriers that we can utilize to execute your freight too, and they have to meet the same stringent requirements as our own drivers, tractors, trailers, or whatnot. So it's a little bit more of a asset first, and then we bring in the brokerage piece when it makes sense. It's all about the relationship. So who's getting my capacity right now kind of ties into that. Is if you were good to us when the market was imbalanced as a shipper previously, then we're giving you more prudence to receive our assets. So it's not just strictly about the dollar amount. It's also about the long term relationship and who's been good to us. And you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours kind of scenario.
Very, very interesting. So let's talk about the future of the markets here, near term and long term. Where do you see things going? Right now, we've got tender rejections that are pretty flat overall across the nation, right? We've got pockets where it's really high. Like, for instance, are you seeing issues in, say Houston, where rejections are going high? We're seeing that diversion of imports from the West Coast coming around through the canal and then up into the Gulf Coast and also the East Coast ports. We're seeing a lot more containerized shipments coming through the port of Houston. Is that having an effect on your business at all?
So we don't do a ton. We don't do a ton in that area. But to answer your question, what my projection is, I think that this market constraint is going to continue. This year, everybody I talk to, obviously, I have connections at different transportation companies, logistics companies. I don't talk to anybody that's not expecting it to continue to be a robust year from a volume perspective, a rate perspective. We don't really see it slowing down right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't suspect so. So, as you're struggling to find those drivers, and you mentioned the retention, what are you guys doing at Trio there? What are the suggestions there to try and retain those drivers? Right, that's the best way to seat trucks, is it not?
It is. So some of the things that we do is we train. We try to train the people ourselves. So we try to attract that talent directly. So we're headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio, but we have other offices as well. But we try to hire those people specifically indirectly. We invest in them from a relationship perspective. So our ideology is, do we have a driver shortage problem as an industry? Absolutely, but we also feel as though we have a driver retention problem. If we can come in, invest in that individual, provide them with coaching, provide them with a mentor that's been in the industry for a longer time, and really teach them what to expect, go along with them along their truck driving journey, they tend to stay with us more than if I'm sure some people are going to disagree that if we use a recruiter or whatnot. So if we've been able to hire those people, we've seen a higher retention rate than if we outsourced it. And that's our experience, but we're small enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, everybody's got a different culture, and some things work better for others. I personally believe that, as you said, that kind of personal touch, so to speak, in the very beginning, I think goes a long way. It makes it much more sincere. They're less of a number and more of a part of a family, to use a cliche, I guess. So at Trio,
Absolutely.
are you guys making taking this time right now to really try and grow or establish those relationships for when freight may pull back sometime in the future, if it ever happens?
And you're talking from a customer perspective, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So from a customer perspective, to be candid, we are growing, but right now, with business being the way that it is, we're fulfilling the orders that we have from our existing customers. I am getting in and having discussions with customers, with newer customers, so that when the market does switch, we're there to get started with them from that perspective. But I'm very honest and
Gotcha.
candid in the beginning, like, hey, we got a certain amount of boxes, we got a certain amount of intermodal loads and whatnot that we're shipping. We're good right now,
Excellent.
but I
Excellent
want to
stuff,
have that
Sherman. Hey,
discussion and relationship with them.
Sherman, thank you so much. I love that perspective. Thank you for being on. We'll talk to you again real soon.